Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Laurel Frank, Director of Science in Magnolia ISD. I'm also N5WWF, my ham radio call sign I received back in 1989. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the ARRL, the American Radio Relay League, which is the national organization for amateur or ham radio operators. This year also marks an opportunity I have to share with you things I've learned by being a ham. It's always good to learn something new, and as teachers we ask our students to learn something new all the time. Our content may be very familiar and comfortable to us, so it's easy to forget that our students are being exposed to things that they may have never seen or heard before. Studying for and then sitting for the ham radio exam caused me to stretch and learn something new, as well as put me in the role of the student. I also had some encouragement from my husband to stick with studying even when it got difficult. We can be that encourager to our students to help them push through even when the task is daunting. So what is amateur radio? It's a hobby I got into because of my husband and his family, and it's recently seen a rise in popularity. Amateur or volunteer radio operators operate and communicate with radio equipment. The communication can be local, across the country, across the world, or even to astronauts in space. There are specific radio bands dedicated to amateur radio operators, as well as a set of guidelines that ham radio operators follow and encourage other radio operators to follow as well. Communication can occur in good times just for fun or to compete in a contest, or during bad times such as in an earthquake or a hurricane when other forms of communication fail. We'll talk more about that later. One aspect of ham radio includes Morse Code, a system of dots represented by saying dit and dashes represented by saying da that signify the alphabet. Since it's always good to learn something new, let's learn a little Morse code together. You may even already be familiar with a little Morse code, such as SOS. To speak SOS, you would say dit-a-dit, da-da-da, dit-a-dit. That's all well and good, but you'll hopefully not have a need to signal distress in the near future. Let's learn something a little bit more fun. To speak the word hi, you would say dit-a-dit, dit-dit. Here's what it would sound like if I knock on a box. So the next time you're going to knock on somebody's door, give this a try. Kind of fun. Back in 2005, Jay Leno posed the question, which is faster, texting or Morse code? Audience members overwhelmingly thought that texting would be quicker than communicating with Morse code. And there's a little clip here I can show you if you want to click on the link. In a surprising turn of events, the old guys were significantly faster than the young texters on their phones. One of the reasons Morse code is such a valuable form of communication is that it can be used even when the signal's very weak. As long as you can transmit a single tone, you can transmit Morse code. Another thing I've learned is to volunteer in the community. We volunteer in a variety of events, but one of our family's favorite is helping with the Houston Marathon. This is my marathon hat I wear every time in other places we volunteer as well. This is this year's t-shirt, so we have quite a collection of t-shirts from the marathon. The key role of ham radio support during the marathon is to provide communication between net control, the hub of folks in charge of the entire event, and the numerous timers, water stops, first aid stations, and sag wagons that pick up injured or exhausted runners. The pictures show net control and a map of the marathon route where the location of each ham radio operator can be seen throughout the entire event. The communication provided by volunteers makes the marathon run smoothly, makes the venue safer, and keeps key people informed throughout the entire day. This is our family manning one of the sag wagons. My husband's up front surrounded by the radio equipment, and my daughter and I are in the back helping to spot and pick up runners. We're given bib numbers of runners who need to be picked up, and we then let net control know when we find the runners and when and where we drop them off. Those runners are very thankful to have a bottle of water and a ride back to the convention center. As a radio operator, we can also have a special license plate with our call signs. You may see my car or other local ham radio operators on your next drive around town. Many devote themselves to ham radio and they cover their cars with a variety of antennas. I've not gone that far yet. I've also learned that I get a lot out of meeting all types of people. The world of ham radio is very diverse. While all ham radio operators have some interest in radio communication, everyone has a different background and passion. Some people like to compete in contests such as Field Day, where you set up a radio in a remote location. Some like to see how many countries they can contact and collect QSL cards, like postcards with a call sign, while others like to build and test radios and antennas. Another popular event is to attend a ham radio convention. You'll see people you may not run across on a daily basis. It's not unusual to see radio operators wearing gear including antennas, microphones, and a few things that have nothing to do with amateur radio at all. It's fun to strike up a conversation with fellow radio operators and find out what got them interested in the hobby to begin with. I've learned that ham radio is a great resource during an emergency. There are many ways to communicate, but ham radio is there when everything else fails. During Hurricane Katrina, when telephone lines were down and cell service was disrupted, amateur radio volunteers were able to direct the Coast Guard to rescue many families stranded in flooded areas. Now that's a cool hobby. And my favorite thing I've learned from being a ham is to spend time with family. Since my daughter was small, we brought her along to many volunteer events. We attended a ham convention this past summer where my husband upgraded his license and Aubrey passed her test, so she is now KG5 CQW. She is eager to use her new license at our next volunteer event. From learning something new, volunteering, working with other people, helping in an emergency, and spending time with my family, ham radio has enriched my life. If you find yourself intrigued, check out the ARRL website to find groups in our area. It's a hobby with a purpose, and it's just plain fun.